Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, what we have here is more story and more information coming out with a lot of things regarding the war with Israel and Iran and how the U.S. may, and it seems very likely, to get involved in this. As I said before, I do not want war. I do not want to go to war unless we, as an American people, as our country, is attacked. That have been very consistent on that. And I have no desire to actually go to war for any other just reason. But there are some things I have to show you guys as I've been scouring the internet, trying to find some actual stuff here to try to, help you guys see what's going on, to kind of get a gist of ideas of what's been going on here. So, first off, we're going to go with some of the things that Trump has put on Truth Social so we can kind of see what's going on. Now, a lot of the stuff that he's been just saying is kind of concerning, and there are ways that we have to go about it. Now, there are a few articles going out about Trump saying he hasn't done these things or that he's done these things, and I'm just reiterating the actual articles here. So, because they're getting this stuff from Truth Social. So, we're going to disregard this, but these are the things that we have to be talking about here. So, what we have here is from Trump pretty much saying is that publicity seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to DC to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I am now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel said always gets it wrong. Stay tuned. So we don't know why he's going to Washington, but this is a concerning matter because he doesn't say on to why, which obviously you wouldn't if you're going anywhere near a war. But yes, this is what he's doing. We don't know why. He says, I have not reached out to Iran for peace talks in any way, shape, or form. This is just more highly fabricated fake news. If they want to talk, they know how to reach me. They should have taken the deal that was on the table, would have saved a lot of lives. Now, I know that this is very concerning, and it is concerning to me too. However, let's take it back a second. Let's go watch and listen to what's going on here. And this is just a matter of looking at this and saying, does this mean that Trump is going to go to war with Iran and send boots on the ground, or is this mean he's going to aid Israel? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that, we shouldn't aid Israel. And I 100% agree with you guys. Full force, do not disagree with you that we should not be funding Israel. And I agree that we shouldn't be funding them. But the point being is they are our allies. Where Ukraine was not our ally, and we shouldn't be sending any money to them whatsoever because they're not an ally. They're not part of NATO. They're not part of anything. So in order to honor that trust and resolve, we have to send money to Israel or something to Israel because that's just the way it is. We are their ally. That makes sense onto why we would send stuff to them, even though I wholeheartedly disagree with sending anything to this terrible, terrible run country of the people. And we have this here where more from Donald Trump. This is with the ICE stuff, so we're not going to deal with that. He says we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it. But it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. That I don't care. The point that I care for, Trump, is going into war or not going to war. And if we don't go to war, better. If we do go to war, that is a problem, and you already fractured a good chunk of the MAGA base. If we even want to go off of that, so it's not good to go to war. We're not at war yet, so that's okay. It says we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out on live, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, okay, I can understand in this first part here. This is good. Well, no, take this. This right here is good. I don't mind saying this because this just means that he's saying We know where the leader is hiding. We don't want to kill him. We don't want to unalive him. We don't want to do any of this. This is fine, and we also don't want missiles shot at our civilians or American soldiers. That is all 100% fine. There is nothing wrong with this. It's like, okay, we do have an intel where he's at. There's nothing an issue here, so we're not going to do anything, and we just want to protect our civilians and our American soldiers. But the bigger problem that I have with is this here. All right, God bless America. God, I hate this. Okay, so the problem that I have with this here is this. This is the problem I have with this. Because this here is a problem. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This is my concern. Because if your patience is wearing thin, what does that mean? Does that mean that we go to war, or does this mean that Israel is attacking? You need to be consistent. You need to be more direct and more or less vague on what you mean by our patience is wearing thin. Does this mean that you're going to give Israel the go-ahead to attack? Does this mean that we're going to be funding Israel to go ahead and attack? Does this mean that we're going to put our boots on the ground for our people to attack? We need more concrete stuff. We do not need this vague BS, Trump. Let's be honest here. Be honest with the American people and tell us what you mean by our patience is wearing thin. Because that could mean a numerous amount of things that we just don't know. And unconditional surrender is what he says here. I don't know what this means either. Unconditional surrender could mean what? Does that mean you're going to have Israel attack? If that means we're going to have Israel attack and it's under your type of thing, then yes, okay. That is crazy. We're going to be talking about this later today. But that's what we have here. Now, we have other stuff here that we can go over as well. So we have this here from clandestine saying, you all might not like it or agree with it, but what we were witnessing is Trump negotiating on the world stage. It reminds me of when Trump threatened Kim Jong-un with fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never seen. The next year, Trump and Kim Jong-un had a peace summit after the MSM said he would start a nuclear war in World War III. Trump turned the entire situation around and accomplished something the world once believed to be impossible. I'm not saying the current situation is exactly like North Korea, but it's just a reminder that these situations are never initially as they seem. It may have appeared like we were on the brink of destruction, but really we were not. Trump's objective is not war, but as a commander-in-chief of the most powerful military ever assembled, he is going to flex his muscle when he needs to in order to achieve his desired result. You might not like it, but this is the reality of the situation. It's not all sunshine and rainbows in the real world. So this is what we have here. So we're going to go over this.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yes, again, this is another point to where we go back to this, guys, where he says unconditional surrender and our patience is very thin. Thank you for your attention on this matter. This is, I would say, a typical Trump thing, because being vague like this would also mean, because let's put it this way. If Trump was being serious in this matter, right, where he was saying like, oh, our patience is wearing thin, then this makes sense, right? So that being said, okay, we're going to get rid of this, but it doesn't matter. So if our patience is wearing thin, this just means that, he's being vague, because Iran doesn't know what this means. We don't know what this means. So this could mean that the U.S. would enter the war or may not. We don't know, but Trump has to be tough in order to deal with this. I understand that. The problem is that the American people don't know, and that's a concerning part. We have this here from J.D. Vance, and I really, really, really like this post. He says here, look, I'm seeing this from the inside, and I'm admittedly biased towards our president and my friend, but there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media. So I wanted to address some things directly on the Iran issue. First, POTUS has been amazingly consistent over 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Over the last few months, he encouraged his foreign policy team to reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish this goal. The president has made clear that Iran cannot have uranium enrichment. He said repeatedly that this would happen one of two ways: the easy way or the other way, meaning war. Second, I've seen a lot of confusion over the issue of civilian nuclear power and uranium enrichment. These are distinct issues. Iran could have civilian nuclear power without enrichment, but Iran rejected that. Meanwhile, they've enriched uranium far above the level necessary for any civilian purpose. They've been found in violation of their non-proliferation obligations by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, which is hardly a right-wing organization. It's one thing to want civilian nuclear energy. It's another thing to demand a sophisticated enrichment capacity. And it's still another to cling to enrichment while simultaneously violating basic non-proliferation obligations and enriching right to the point of weapons-grade uranium. I have yet to see a single good argument for why Iran needed to enrich uranium well above the threshold for civilian use. I have yet to see a single good argument for why Iran was justified in violating its non-proliferation obligations. I have yet to see a single good pushback against the IAEA's findings. Meanwhile, the president has shown remarkable restraint in keeping our militaries focused on protecting our troops and protecting our citizens. And he may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. This is another thing that I have a concern about, ladies and gentlemen. I do not like this part at all. Let's continue. Says that the decision ultimately belongs to the president. And of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. But I believe the president has earned some trust on this issue. And I have seen this up close and personal. I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish the American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus. Of course, Luke Rudowski says, why is this our business and how does this help America? So again, no, I'm not saying that. So he says, are you saying Tosi and the 18 U.S. intelligence bodies backing the opposite findings less than 8 weeks ago are wrong or lying? No, I'm not saying that. First off, Tosi's testimony was in March, and a lot has changed since then. Second, if you look at what she said then, her point about uranium enrichment is consistent with what I wrote above. I could agree. I will say this: if Iran is getting uranium enrichment, that is a problem, and we can't really have that. Because Iran has said death to America. They have said that. And they could give it to Hamas and other terrible organizations that would use it. Now, I'm not talking about China or Russia because they already have nukes. I'm talking about other places that are inherently more violent and would nuke the U.S. if that were to be the case. And we have to be very concerned about that. But we don't have any confirmation on that happening, right? So it says, just in, President Trump is seriously considering a U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, particularly in the Fordo plant, which is built into a mountain, per reports. President Trump has convened this National Security Council in the Situation Room and are meeting with them to determine the plan as we speak. Apparently, the only option to knock out Fordo is dropping a bunker buster from a B-2 Spirit, which only the U.S. has. Pray for our troops. That's very concerning, and I don't like that at all. This was at 10:06 a.m. Of course, we have the typical warmonger Lindsey Graham who wants to put boots on the ground in Iran.
Can you guarantee that? Can President Trump in any form, can you make the commitment that this would not lead to a longer war?
I can guarantee you that if the Ayatollah gets a nuclear weapon, he will use it. I believe that with all my heart and soul. So the men and women who serve, they're the ones going, not people answering a poll. And if you ask them, would you be willing to risk your life to stop the Ayatollah from having a nuclear weapon? All of them would say yes, because it makes their country, our country, safer. So we live in a world where you've got to confront problems. You want to avoid World War III? Learn the lessons from World War II. People in World War II appeased Hitler to the point that it got so much out of hand, we had a world war and 60 million people got killed. So we live in a world where you pay now or you pay later. Let's stop this threat before he gets a nuclear weapon. Let's end this reign of terror. Let's do it now. It's not going to take 20 months, but I can't guarantee you your freedom and your safety unless we're willing to fight for it. I can guarantee you this: if we don't fight for our freedom, we will lose it.
Yeah, well, Senator.
Yeah, he's not outright saying it, but he does want to put boots on the ground in Iran, which is completely insane. I do not agree with this whatsoever. If there is actual nuclear enrichment, tell the American people this. I like JD's Vance post here a lot more. This is explaining a lot more on what's going on and why I think J.D. Vance should be the next president, because he's at least explaining exactly what's going on here and what we have. Now, we don't have exact proof that there's uranium enrichment. This is only going from Netanyahu, which I absolutely despise, but again, we need more information. We have IDF strike police HQ in Kashan as part of a 5-day blitz. The IDF has reportedly targeted the police headquarters in Kashan, central Iran. No mystery here. Israel's not hiding it, and Kashan isn't random. The city sits near key missile, drone, and nuclear facilities. Just so happens to host some of Iran's military-industrial backbone. Okay. Now, this is a more concern here because we said this is supposed to be a nuclear thing, and it's not going to be a nuclear thing, right? But and I understand that this is what these people do. They make sure that all their facilities and everything is near civilians, etc., so that way they can play like, oh, you unalived all of civilians and stuff like that, and that's an issue. But yeah. So again, we have this here. Trump is expected to sign an executive order within the next few hours to formally join the war. Israeli source, Israeli Channel 14. Like, I'm going to trust an Israel channel. And this is the final stuff that I have here. This was from yesterday, right? So this is stupid because you cannot sign an executive order. So it says here, no, a president cannot sign an executive order to go to war. The U.S. Constitution grants Congress the sole power to declare war. While presidents can deploy troops in certain situations, they cannot unilaterally initiate a full-scale war through an executive order. So this guy here is straight up lying. You cannot do this at all. Don't trust what this guy says because he's a bloody moron. You can't trust him because you can't sign an executive order to go to war. It all has to do with Congress. So this guy's a fucking moron. So don't trust him. But these other things are concerning here, and I'll keep you up to date the best that I can. I understand this video is long, and I understand that you guys probably don't react very well to long-term videos. But I'm trying my best here to give you the best information on what's going on with the U.S. war, potentially with Iran and Israel, and I want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on here. We are not at war yet. Yes, there are very concerning things that Trump has said, specifically this one that makes me concerned, and all this other stuff here. And I want you guys to know that we may or may not go to war. I am 100% against this. So we'll see what happens here. I think Trump is playing a front, but I'll keep you guys up to date. For now, I'll be doing other news outside of this, so prepare for that. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take care, my friends.